Frank! It's that helicopter. It's the same helicopter. November... No. See, Frank, November 9er 748.
Is that a 4?
At exactly 6 a.m., Frank Moses starts his day. He gets out of bed, pours his morning coffee, and runs through his usual workout routine. When he receives his pension check, he brightens up and immediately calls his contact at the pension office. Her name is Sarah, and the moment he introduces himself, she perks up. Frank tells her his check didn't arrive again, and she apologizes, promising to send a replacement. He asks how her day is going, and she admits it's terrible, saying she wishes she could travel. Frank then asks what she's been reading lately, and she explains it's a story about a supermodel couple recruited by the CIA to stop an assassin in Milan, a plot she finds thrilling. After they hang up, Frank spends his evening reading the exact book Sarah mentioned. Later that night, Frank wakes up unexpectedly, sensing something off. As he heads downstairs, armed intruders are already moving through his home, tracking him. They strike first, but Frank has already slipped away, reappearing behind them and taking them out with swift precision. After neutralizing the initial group, he hears more men outside, so he quickly rigs a trap in the kitchen. He then heads to the basement to grab cash and weapons. Moments later, the trap detonates and his house is shredded with gunfire. A wave of mercenaries storms inside and Frank greets them head-on, eliminating each one in rapid succession. When the last attacker is down, he calmly slips away. Meanwhile, Sarah gets dropped off at home by an awkward date, muttering to herself that she's never seeing that guy again. Suddenly, Frank quietly steps into her apartment, gently introducing himself, which immediately terrifies her. She orders him to leave, but then realizes he's already packed her suitcase and even vacuumed the place, making her think he's completely unhinged. She starts shouting, and Frank tries to calm her down, explaining that someone is trying to kill him, and now they're targeting her as well. When she demands to know why anyone would want her dead, Frank tells her the attackers have been listening to their phone calls and know he has feelings for her. Frank tries to tell Sarah that he really wished their first meeting had been under normal circumstances, but hopes that someday they'll both look back on this whole mess as an adventure. She just lets out a panicked, unintelligible scream, and Frank, completely missing the point, comments that he's hungry too and asks what they should eat. Elsewhere, a man methodically prepares a setup, approaches another man, and kills him by hanging. This is William Cooper. Outside afterward, a woman meets him and informs him he has a new assignment. Cooper checks the file and sees his next target is a supposedly retired CIA analyst. In New Orleans, Frank and Sarah pull up at a motel. Frank quickly ties Sarah to the bed. She protests, saying she won't press charges if he lets her go, but Frank insists it's too late for that. He claims he's CIA, which she flat out refuses to believe. Frank compliments her, remarking on her beautiful eyes, before telling her he has to meet someone. Meanwhile, a man named Joe struggles with his TV. A helpful woman assists him, but he can't help staring at her, commenting she's more entertaining than the screen. Frank suddenly appears, scolding him for his distraction. He shows Joe severed fingers, explaining that he was attacked by a wet team. Joe calls to confirm that the same attackers also killed New York Times reporter Stephanie Chang. At the same time, Cooper sifts through Frank's files and finds a pension check. Meanwhile, Sarah manages to free herself, and Cooper notices her phone dialing 911. A police officer offers to take Sarah home, and she follows him cautiously. Suddenly, she's grabbed and injected with a sedative. Out of nowhere, Frank swoops in to rescue her. They jump into the police car, and still groggy, she compliments him, calling him handsome. Just then, a car crashes into them. Frank jumps out, confronts the attacker, Cooper, and swiftly takes him down. Back in the car, Sarah finally believes he's really CIA. Frank radios the police, alerting them that a suspect is driving a black SUV. He sets a trap, Cooper walks right into it, and the police arrest him. Sarah wakes up groggy and asks how they ended up in New York City. Frank explains, hoping she'll understand the chaos, but she jokes she didn't expect to be kidnapped, drugged, or go on a date without hair. He apologizes, and she thanks him for saving her. They arrive in Chinatown, where Frank picks up some duct tape, prompting her to exclaim that he can't go around duct taping everyone. Soon, they meet Stephanie Chang's mother, who shows them a card Stephanie received the day she died, filled with mysterious numbers. Curious, Frank asks where Stephanie went to college. He then explains the numbers correspond to a classification system for Asian literature. To impress Sarah, he speaks fluent Chinese, quickly deciphering the clue. They locate a book containing a note and a list of names. Almost all have recently died under mysterious circumstances, except one man. Frank calls to check on him, only to discover he has just been murdered. At the CIA headquarters, Cooper storms in to confront his boss, claiming Frank isn't just an analyst. He's handed a note directing him to meet the mysterious records keeper. Astonished by the secrecy, Cooper learns that this place officially doesn't exist. The records keeper brings out Frank's files, entirely redacted. He reveals that Frank Moses was one of the CIA's most skilled Black Op agents, retired under the codename R.E.D. Retired, extremely dangerous. Cooper is impressed, and the records keeper adds, "They don't make them like Frank anymore." Frank informs Sarah that they need to find Marvin Boggs. Taking a motorboat, they arrive at a seemingly deserted location, only for Marvin to suddenly appear. Initially wary, Marvin questions why they are after him. Frank assures him they aren't, and jokingly asks him to remove a knife he has pinned to his body. As Marvin guides them to his home, Sarah notices he isn't living in the actual house. Marvin explains he prefers to stay off the radar. Mentioning the recent attack on him, Frank listens as Marvin rambles about the dangers of trusting phones, satellites, and even dentists. Frank interrupts, handing over the list of the dead. Marvin checks his files and discovers that 5 of the people, not including Frank and the others, were involved in a 1981 mission in Guatemala where a village was wiped out under orders to cover it up. Excited, Marvin exclaims he never thought he'd get a chance to take out the pig again. Marvin expresses suspicion about Sarah, suggesting they might need to get rid of her. Frank firmly insists they won't. He likes her. Marvin then spots a helicopter overhead and notes its number, N9748C. Sarah mentions that a man on their list, named Singer, will be at the air freight terminal the next day. As they head to the terminal, Marvin suddenly grabs a woman, accusing her of following them with a camera. Frank quickly checks and confirms her bag is empty, calming Marvin's suspicion. Marvin, still unsettled, goes to fetch the car. When they finally meet Singer, he reveals a reporter asked him questions about Guatemala, but he stayed silent. Frank explains that everyone from that mission is now dead, except for Singer and themselves. Suddenly, the helicopter appears again, same number, N9748C. As they discuss this, Singer is shot. Cooper has ordered an all-out hit. The trio escapes, but the woman Marvin suspected earlier begins firing at them. They take cover in Marvin's armored vehicle, returning fire. The woman fires an RPG, but Marvin skillfully shoots it mid-flight, earning Frank's admiration. Despite Cooper's anger, the 3 manage to escape. While Sarah rests, Marvin jokingly comments that Frank really knows how to impress a lady. Marvin then warns that the only place to uncover why they're being targeted is extremely dangerous and will require serious help. He clarifies that he's not talking about the kind of help where last time these guys used electrical wires in very unpleasant places. Frank goes in alone to the Russian embassy. As he reaches the entrance, soldiers detain him. One Russian remarks that killing Frank has been a long-standing dream, but surprisingly, he quickly changes demeanor, grabs a vodka, and proposes a toast. His name is Ivan, and he admits he hasn't killed anyone in years. Frank notes the irony. Frank explains he needs to break into the CIA and requests Ivan's help. Ivan hesitates, saying he can't, but when Frank offers a favor in return, Ivan cannot refuse. Sarah is thrilled to accompany them. Inside, during the elevator ride, Sarah drops Frank's contact lens, triggering an alarm. Soldiers arrive, but she convinces them to assist in finding it. Once the lens is back in place, Frank is authenticated, and the soldiers allow them to continue. They reach a secret floor. Frank notes that the code to bypass the door is unbreakable, but finds an alternate hidden method. Here, they meet the record keeper, Henry, who is glad to see Frank. Frank inquires about the Guatemala files, and Henry explains that a new agent named Cooper, who has a tough appearance, recently sought Frank's records. Frank later encounters Cooper and confronts him. They fight while Sarah waits in a nearby coffee room. Frank questions if Cooper was trained by Kordeski, which Cooper confirms. Frank reveals he trained Kordeski himself and quickly dislocates Cooper's arm. During the escape, Frank is shot in the shoulder. Triggering the fire alarm, he grabs Sarah and mixes chemicals in a bucket to create a diversion. Cooper and another agent witness the resulting explosion. Sarah cleverly tricks a fireman to help the injured and disguised Frank pass by guards, and the duo escapes in an ambulance. They encounter Marvin, who has a gun to his head, when Joe opens the door jokingly, and they all escape. Cooper's boss is furious that Frank survived, questioning why he deserved to live, to which she admits ignorance. Sarah worries about Frank's injuries, but he insists they must head to Eagle's Nest. Marvin comments that this plan will likely get them killed. The team reaches Eagle's Nest despite the risks. Inside, Frank spots a woman, Victoria, who immediately asks if he's there to kill her. Frank assures her he isn't. Victoria requests that he tell Marvin to stand down, then assists Frank with his bullet wound. They regroup, and Joe notes that someone named Dunning is alive, a gangster the CIA is protecting. Frank suggests they visit him, and Victoria agrees to join. Joe expresses relief that the team is reuniting. Meanwhile, Cooper checks on his family while his boss informs him that Frank has a new target. Disguised, the team arrives at Dunning's home. Victoria observes CIA surveillance in the surrounding woods. Dunning and Joe retreat to a soundproof room to discuss sensitive business. As they converse, a knock at the door leads Dunning to open it, expecting guards, but Frank knocks him unconscious. Outside, Sarah comments on Frank's actions, and Victoria shares her past. She was in love with an agent while in MI6, and was once ordered to kill him, shooting him 3 times in the chest. Dunning questions who they are. Frank and Victoria explain they were responsible for cleaning up his Guatemala mess. They ask who Dunning helped escape Guatemala. Nervously, Dunning admits he flew out a young lieutenant, now the son of the current vice president. When asked about the New York Times reporter, Dunning says she contacted him twice, prompting him to involve the vice president, who is now trying to cover his past actions. Victoria suddenly warns that they've been discovered. Cooper arrives and agents surround the property. Joe knocks out Dunning as Cooper calls, instructing them to surrender. Frank explains the vice president ordered the hits to cover war crimes in Guatemala, though Cooper is skeptical. Frank's rhetorical question about predicting their location compels Cooper to promise no one will fire and that the agent will testify. Victoria points out that agents are everywhere but offers to cover them while they retreat into the woods. Joe remarks that someone will have to make a hard choice, and Frank hugs him, calling it an honor. As someone emerges, Cooper orders all agents to hold fire. One agent disobeys, firing at the figure, which confuses Cooper. Cooper runs forward and realizes it isn't Frank. Frank and Marvin escape, with Victoria providing cover. She and Sarah flee as well. Shortly after, Sarah trips and is captured by agents. Victoria informs the team that the CIA has taken her. Out of nowhere, Ivan appears in a car, surprising everyone. The team raises a toast to Joe. Victoria then points out they need to expose the vice president's war crimes. Marvin begins discussing how they might have to torture Sarah if they pursue this, upsetting Frank. Victoria scolds Marvin for his comment, calling him an idiot. Ivan approaches Frank and shows him a shocking detail: 3 bullet wounds in his chest. He explains that the love of Frank's life once shot him, and now she sits outside his home, drinking vodka. Ivan reminds Frank that surviving such events is a sign of love. Sometimes people do crazy things for it. Meanwhile, Sarah is being interrogated. Frank calls Cooper, warning him that what he loves can be taken away. Cooper traces the call to his own house and grows fearful. Frank threatens that if Sarah or Cooper's family is harmed, he will kill the vice president. CIA agents arrive at Cooper's home. Upon arriving himself, Cooper discovers the list of dead people and the Guatemala file in his living room. Back at the CIA, he asks Sarah about the file. She confirms they recovered it from the secret records depository and adds, jokingly, that Frank will eat him for lunch. Cooper then informs his boss that he'll need to coordinate with the Secret Service to protect the vice president. Elsewhere, Frank tells Marvin he's stashed a few toys just in case, and Marvin comments that the vice president is going to love this. At a fundraiser gala, Cooper is coordinating with the Secret Service while Frank's team prepares to take down the vice president. During the vice president's speech, Ivan takes Victoria for a dance, telling her her radiance nearly leaves him speechless. The music abruptly stops and Ivan begins working, moving around the room and spraying an unknown substance. Victoria secures a door with a special necklace and goes to meet Marvin. Ivan suddenly notices a gas smell and triggers the fire alarm. The vice president and Secret Service scramble for exits but are blocked. As they reach their cars, Victoria shoots at them, disabling the vehicles. Cooper attempts to intercept them while Ivan, arriving via elevator, picks up a pen and detonates a bomb in the vice president's backup car. The Secret Service brings the vice president back inside, but Cooper makes his way to an unmanned heavy machine gun. Victoria, with Marvin's help, stops the Secret Service again. In the chaos, Victoria is injured. Marvin creates a diversion with smoke grenades, allowing the team to escape. Victoria tells Marvin she's no use anymore, but gets trapped as police close in. Ivan suddenly appears, helping her open the door. She declares her love for him, and he replies that he knows. Outside, the VP and Secret Service see Marvin running toward them wearing a vest. Everyone flees, and the VP climbs into a presidential car. Cooper yells for them to stop, but is ignored. Moments later, the driver turns. It's Frank, tasing them. Later, when Frank confronts the vice president about Guatemala, the VP breaks down in tears. Frank calls Cooper, giving him 15 minutes to bring Sarah to a nearby power plant, or he will kill the vice president. Cooper alerts his boss and tells her to notify the Secret Service. Cooper arrives at the location, declaring the situation over, but Frank replies, "We'll see." A limousine pulls up and Cooper's boss steps out with Sarah along with Denning, no Secret Service in sight. Cooper is confused when Denning suddenly shoots the vice president. Frank declares Sarah is free, but Denning says he must trade his life for hers. He tells Sarah he tore up all those pension checks to reach her, and she acknowledges this. Denning orders Cooper to cuff Frank, but sensing the deceit of both Denning and his boss, Cooper gives Frank the key. Denning ominously claims the world will learn Frank shot the VP and Sarah. Suddenly, Frank walks toward them. Cooper shoots his boss. Chaos ensues, and Frank crushes Denning's throat. The team emerges from the shadows, and Frank embraces Sarah. He thanks Cooper, who assures him he'll handle the rest. Marvin casually shoots a dead man and jokingly asks if anyone wants pancakes. On the drive home, the team celebrates their freedom, though Ivan reminds Frank of a favor owed. Marvin is shocked he actually granted Ivan a favor, but Ivan clarifies it's a minor nuclear issue in Moldova. Sarah asks if they can leave, and Frank agrees. They share a kiss. In the final scene, Marvin remarks that Moldova sucks, while he and Frank are still dodging gunfire from soldiers. And that is how it ended. Make sure to subscribe for more recaps like this. Leave a like and comment below how you feel about this movie. I'll see you on the next one.